Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Mandarin, here with Lucy. Welcome to the Voice of Guo today on May 1st, 2020. Welcome to, thank you for being our audience today. Don't forget to click the like, subscribe, and click the bell so you'll know the next time we upload a video. Now, let's look at some stories in China. Number one, the Hong Kong Workers' Union is setting up kiosk stations in all districts of Hong Kong today. And at 5:01 p.m., a Hong Kong slogan will be announced for 1 minute. The HK Workers' Union's parade application was rejected earlier. Today, they started to set up kiosk stations in all districts of Hong Kong instead of organizing a parade. Carol Ong, the chairman of HK Workers' Union, said that today there are different workers' union organizations responding to our actions. And more than 60 kiosk stations are joining in. But they will make sure that all kiosks are staffed with less than 4 people, and will also give out flyers about epidemic prevention information to the public. In addition, Carol Ong said that at 5:01 p.m., all of Hong Kong will get together to speak out a slogan for 1 minute, and Carol is encouraging people to participate from everywhere, not necessarily going to the kiosk station, and suggests that people to leave after receiving the flyers at the kiosk stations, refrain from large crowd gathering, and to avoid being issued a restriction order ticket by the Hong Kong police. Number two, riot police once again used restriction orders to repel citizens and use pepper spray on journalists and curse them names such as trash and bitches. In the afternoon, the workers' union held a kiosk station at Lanham Place in Mong Kok. During that period, some citizens showing support for the Chinese Communist Party, screaming, quote, "The police are good," and, quote, "I love Xi Jinping," and started arguing with another group of citizens. A number of riot policemen and non-uniformed policemen then arrived at the scene immediately, opened up their speakers, and pointed out that the people presented at the scene had violated the restriction order and demanded that all people should leave immediately. Some policemen also used pepper sprays on journalists and called them trashes, bitches, and clowns. Number three, ex-Hong Kong Governor Penn blasted China's Central Liaison Office for violating Joint Declaration and Basic Law of Hong Kong. Former Hong Kong Governor Peng Ding-Kang wrote a letter to the British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab, concerned about the fact that the Central Liaison Office claimed to have oversight authority over Hong Kong affairs and bombarded the CCP about their honesty and criticized the Liaison Office for breaching the joint statement between Hong Kong and China and Hong Kong basic laws. Ex-Governor Penn hopes that the British government will pay attention to the behavior of the Chinese government and closely monitor Beijing's possible violation of the rule of law and elections in Hong Kong in the coming months. On April 26, an open letter from ex-Governor Penn to Tedros was published on the internet. Patton accused China of engaging in aggressive diplomacy, hiding the truth of the virus outbreak, as well as denying the true origins of the virus. Questioned the CCP about not being a responsible partner of WHO, in addition criticizing the CCP that they are no longer trustworthy of the international community. Then, the governor criticized the CCP for further oppressing the citizens of Hong Kong while the international community is busy dealing with the CCP virus outbreak. He pointed out that some Beijing officials publicly voicing their political stance in Hong Kong have obviously violated the Sino-British Joint Declaration and Basic Law of Hong Kong. They claim to have the right to take all actions in Hong Kong, thereby undermining Hong Kong's enjoyment of a high degree of autonomy. Currently, Beijing is deliberately undermining Deng Xiaoping's concept of one country, two systems. Ex-Governor Peng also mentioned the 15 moderate Democrats who were arrested for participating in last year's democratic demonstration in Hong Kong, which more than 1.7 million people participated. The governor cited that during a conversation with him and members of Hong Kong civil society, the parties worried that the arrests were just the beginning, and the Communist Chinese Party was preparing to disqualify the candidates in the September Legislative Council election and even cancel the election outright. while enacting strict national security laws, severely weakening the rule of law in Hong Kong. The non-stop political persecution have also caused Hong Kong people to protest out of fear. All of these actions by the CCP have harmed Hong Kong people's participation in peaceful assemblies and their basic rights. The ex-governor bluntly stated in his letter that there's no golden age relationship between the British government and the Chinese Communist Party. Instead, the British government should open their eyes and see through the lies and deceptions created by the Chinese Communist Party. He urged the British government to send experts to Wuhan to investigate and urged the international community to pay close attention to the CCP's violation of China United Kingdom joint statement and attempts to undermine the rule of law and elections in Hong Kong in the coming months. Number 4, 40 epidemic medical staff were laid off at Xianyang Maternal and Children Hospital. The Xianyang Maternal and Children Hospital laid off more than 40 people, most of whom had fought the CCP virus outbreak on the front line. Not only did they not receive subsidies that were promised to them for fighting the initial virus outbreak, but were also suddenly laid off. The hospital responded that this incident is fake news and is being propped up by foreign agents. A nurse who was interviewed in a video conference stated that those who were laid off had more than 10 years of service to the hospital, and some were new mothers who were pregnant or breastfeeding the newborns. The layoff notice was sent to them show that they were laid off around April the 15th, and the compensation for them is different from a normal layoff. And their commitment letters and resignation application showed voluntary resignation. And guarantee not to bring any legal actions against Xianyang Maternal and Children Health Hospital. The nurses also disclosed that they had only one pair of protective clothes and masks while they were on duty. In order to force the nurses to sign relevant materials to handle the resignation process, the hospital had detained their professional qualification certificates. These laid-off medical staff reported the problem to the local Health and Protection Committee, but so far, the dispute has not been resolved. Now, Lucy will continue the news report.
Thanks, Mandarin. Good morning, this is your co-host Lucy. Jiangnan University forced students to resume school under lockdown prison-like condition, and students were not allowed to leave campus at all. The students were threatened with not able to graduate and other academic probation. Some students went online to register and complain, but all these complaints were completely ignored by school administrators. The school refused to engage in open dialogue with students. All this makes one wonder if school is trying to paint rosy picture and fool more people into thinking that no outbreak anymore and everything is going back to normal. Now to turn to Guangdong province. Ambulance call record on April 28th clearly showed that ambulance from the 5th hospital of Zhongshan University in Zhuhai City, Guangdong province, transported a COVID-19 patient, who is confirmed through a positive nucleic acid test. Yet Zhuhai City government reported no new cases in the past week. These are all the news we have for you today. Thank you for listening and see you tomorrow.